Hey, Shadow here. Today we're diving into Crimson Desert, a world full of brutal battles, giant monsters, collapsing kingdoms, and enough chaos to keep my tail wagging for hours. I have been running through castles, getting launched off cliffs, and picking fights with things way bigger than me just to see if this game lives up to the hype. So, is Crimson Desert the next massive RPG everyone's been waiting for, or just another flashy sword-swinging disaster? Let's jump in and find out. I can safely say Crimson Desert is one of the most ambitious RPGs I've played in years. And somehow, most of the time it actually works. Developed by Pearl Abyss, Crimson Desert throws you into the continent of Pywell as Cliff, a warrior trying to rebuild the shattered Greymane faction while the entire world slowly descends into chaos. And now, first things first. The combat is absolutely insane. Every fight feels heavy, violent, and ridiculously cinematic. You're not just swinging swords here. You're launching enemies into walls, countering attacks, grappling people out of the air, smashing through groups of soldiers, and fighting bosses that look like they escaped from somebody's nightmare. And the scale? Massive. Let's jump into the pros. First of all is the immersive world itself. Pywell feels like a world on the edge of collapse. The atmosphere, music, weather, NPCs, and constant tension make the setting feel believable and dangerous. Just walking around towns, castles, and out along the roadside, the world is alive. The NPCs react to you and really feels like they have their own lives going on. Then adding the absolutely gorgeous graphics to this, it makes the world feel believable. Not just some random open world that offers nothing. Following the story, you notice things changing along with progression of the story. Crimson Desert is one of those games where you stop moving for a second just to look around. The visual detail is honestly ridiculous at times. Battlefields are packed with smoke, fire, and debris. Well, feels harsh, war-torn, dirty, and dangerous, and the graphics sell that atmosphere perfectly. Character models are also extremely detailed. Armor has scratches, cloth moves naturally during combat. Hair reacts to wind and movement, and facial animations during cutscenes look far more realistic than most open-world RPGs, myself coming from Black Desert Online. I knew the character details would be top tier. If you haven't seen BDO, I think it has one of the best character customizations in gaming, which is shame. It wasn't brought to Crimson Desert, but I guess it's solo story, not an MO. Which feeds into the next segment. You are surely thinking, oh, but Shadow, if the graphics are this good, then the FPS must suck, right? Well, no, I was honestly shocked at how well the game runs and is optimized. Yes, there are a few moments where it drops, but it's not really noticeable. It's so fluid, you would think entering these packed cities would have some effect, but honestly, it really doesn't. On to actual gameplay, the important stuff. Combat is great. Even though there are only a few options for weapons, including the other two playable characters who have their own, it's still fun. It's simple. You can just John Cena everyone, because why not? Thinking about it, unarmed combat playthrough would be hilarious. Enemy encounters are designed to keep pressure on the player too. Some enemies hit hard enough that you can't just spam attacks mindlessly, especially during larger battles or boss fights. Timing, positioning, and reacting properly actually matter. If you miss that dodge, say bye to half your health, and some of those boss fights have Vika's combo attacks that will have you hitting the revive button quite a few times. They recently announced or added, depending when this video goes out, game difficulty settings which were not available on release, but I truly think playing the way the game was intended is the best choice. And with trying to keep this video as short, is it worth it? I'll add one more pro and then move on to the cons, that being, you can hold cats. And give them hats. Now we move on to the cons. The story isn't groundbreaking while the world itself is immersive. The main narrative and characters don't always reach the same level as the gameplay or spectacle. The story is solid enough to stay invested in, but it doesn't always leave a lasting emotional impact compared to some other major RPGs. Crimson Desert's story has a strong setting on paper, a war-torn continent filled with collapsing kingdoms, fractured factions, and constant political conflict. But in execution, it often feels like it exists more as a backdrop than a compelling narrative. Overall, the story isn't necessarily bad. It just feels undercooked compared to the ambition of everything else in the game. Crimson Desert clearly wants to tell an epic fantasy war story, but the gameplay, world design, and combat often overshadow the narrative itself. As a result, the story ends up feeling like the least memorable part of an otherwise highly ambitious game. A more personal con is goddamn jump puzzles. When progressing the story, you go to zone known as the Abyss, which is floating islands in the sky, the bridge between those islands. Jump puzzles. I despise them. I could rant for days, but I'll skip. Looking at you, Guild Wars 2. One of the more disappointing areas of Crimson Desert is its life skilling and non-combat progression systems, which feel noticeably less refined compared to the combat and exploration. The biggest issue is that life skilling rarely feels essential or rewarding. Most of the game's best gear, progression, and excitement come from combat and scripted encounters, which makes non-combat activities feel optional to the point of irrelevance besides upgrading gear, which you can just buy the materials. I think the biggest put-off for most people jumping into Crimson Desert is the absolutely horrendous start. The game throws a lot of mechanics at the player, but doesn't always explain them clearly, or if at all. Doing some of the Act 1 Abyss puzzles honestly made me want to stop right there. My saving grave to even be able to write this review was the absolute amount of "did you know" or tips and tricks videos on YouTube. Please watch them. Another con I personally hated, but is just a personal opinion, the amount of follow me quests, mostly when building your camp, is just an absolute bore purely added to waste your time. Oh, one last one, Yan. The single most annoying character I have ever had the joy of listening to. I despise that man. I swear they added that character to make you not want to play. Every single part of the game he is in needs to be removed. Any modders? If I added a clip of him, you would click off of this video. I'll add a little infograph here somewhere if I remember, most likely made in paint so don't bully me. But yeah, in conclusion, it's massive, ambitious, and absolutely stunning. When it hits hard. I personally have loved this game after putting a few thousand hours into Black Desert Online. I was very excited, although I was extremely doubtful at first. But it managed to blow me away. So here's the verdict from your favorite wolf reviewer. Crimson Desert is worth watching, worth trying, and absolutely worth experiencing. But don't expect it to be perfect. It has its issues. The devs themselves seem very invested into listening to the player feedback and are continuously making adjustments and fixes, which is really great to see. If you enjoyed this review, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you think Crimson Desert is worth it. Come check out me and Cyrus live on Twitch. I'll link all that good stuff in the description. Thanks for watching, guys. If you made it this far, I'll let you pet me. Just once.